So, the t-shirt doesn't really suit the subject of the video, but I hope you can live with that. Now, if you're surprised that I'm here, congratulations, so am I. I didn't think that I would have to record this video, but things are happening and I see it as my duty to say something hopefully smart. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't think that a certain kind of person could even become a candidate for the presidential election in the US back in the day. Unfortunately, 4 years ago I was proven wrong. Not only did this person become a candidate, but they won the election.
And we're going to be doing a job that hopefully you'll be so proud of your president. You'll be so proud.
Now, this is partly due to Electoral College. It's not a college, it's not a university, it's not a school. It's the way that they pick their president in the US. And the way that it works, the crazy, insane way that it works in very simplified terms is, well, you have these electoral votes, there's about 538 of them, or actually 538. And then one electoral vote represents 195,000 people in Wyoming, but one electoral vote in California represents 712,000 people. 712,000. One electoral vote. So basically 500,000 more people, and it's still one electoral vote. There you have it. So because of this, the candidate that got the largest amount of votes doesn't necessarily win the election, which is what happened in 2016. Hillary passed Trump. I think she had 3 million more votes, something like that, around that number, but she didn't win because of this system. Yeah, there's another direct result of the Electoral College system, and that is that in order to win all of the electoral votes from a given state, you only have to have more than half of the people's votes. In order to win a certain state, you just need to go over the 50% mark. Yeah, so basically it doesn't matter if you get 50.9 or if you get 70 or if you get 90% of people to vote for you. It just means you need to go over that barrier. And then to clarify, all of the votes, all of the electoral votes from that state become your votes. They amount to your success. So basically there are certain states where certain candidates can be sure that they're gonna get more than 50% from that state. Yeah, just because of the history of how that state voted in the past. And they don't lose any time for those states. They go and they campaign and they go create events, create all kinds of political meetings in the states where there's a chance that the vote might go either way. So basically it's a crazy, insane system that doesn't have anything to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with that. It's a big political machine, a political game, and nothing more. We can't blame it all on the Electoral College either. It's not just because of that. I'm not going to waste time talking to you about what Trump has done or said over the last 4 years and why I think that's inappropriate or why I think it's wrong, because I personally believe that everybody should be able to make that deduction themselves.
You people don't care who the hell they are. I fired his ass so fast. It's bull, okay? It's the worst damn stage I've ever seen. You bring your whole damn family, wherever the hell you are, I love you. They make the crap right there. Get that son of a off the field right now. She said he's a we'll beat the out of them. Let them beat the out of ISIS also. He gets a nomination, they're gonna sue his ass up. Whoever the hell put this mic system, don't put the son of a put it in. You shouldn't say that, sir. I would bomb the out of him. You bet your ass on it, You bet your ass. I don't give a damn. You can tell them to go themselves. It's political. Our country's going to hell. It's going to hell.
Instead, I'll talk to you about Bernie Sanders and why I think this man has got more reason in his brain than the current occupant of the White House. So Bernie Sanders is the author of Medicare for All legislation in the Senate. Well, it's this idea for public healthcare, which is already in place in many countries around the world. It works just fine. Obviously, first world countries, usually English-speaking countries, very often have got it better than some other places, but the system is in place, it works just fine, And I think it takes a considerable amount of pressure off of you when you go to the doctor and you don't have to pay for it. When something happens to you, you go to the hospital, you don't have to pay for it. Yeah, you just receive help in a stressful, traumatic situation. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that it's the least the country can do for people. The government is just there to represent us, and the government doesn't have any money. All of the money that the government has is people's money. So, and money in itself is an artificial concept that we just came up with. It's just something that we use to motivate ourselves and to set things in motion, but it doesn't really have any relevance whatsoever. It's something that we came up with. We can just as easily erase the whole concept and start over. This is something that I would do personally. Obviously, Bernie is not as revolutionary, and besides, he was only campaigning to become president of the United States, not the president of the world, so possibly that would be quite hard to do in just one country when you still have to interact with other countries that operate with currencies and with the whole banking system, etc., etc.
We allow people to become extremely rich, which allows them to buy government. So we, the people, are no longer, we think we're in a democracy, but there have been studies that show that politicians do not really pay attention to what the people want. They pay attention to what the big moneyed lobbyists want, or the money that's going to support their campaigns. That's what's really significant to them. And we allow people to become so powerful that they can buy up, universities and these giant alleged nonprofits that are, these charitable organizations that are really just calling the shots. But anyway, the fact that we're really not a democracy anymore. We're really a corporatocracy. And if we want to get back to a people-run system, we have to start with the financing part of it.
Bernie proposed higher taxes for the wealthiest people in the world, which is something, in the US, which is something that I support as well. I think if there's anything that they can do, is they can help the country operate, and they can help the people that aren't as lucky in life, or possibly aren't as cunning. I don't see anything wrong with taxing the wealthiest people. I think it's something that should have been in place a long time ago. I think it's the least that they can do is provide some help for the country and for the poorest. So and not just in the form of donations. I think it's something that should be happening automatically.
But look, I mean, at some level, no one deserves to have that much money, right? I mean, that's not like, I don't, it's, I think if you do something that's good, you get rewarded, but I do think some of these, some of the wealth that can be accumulated is unreasonable.
People have absolutely no idea how much wealth that is, that a few people have in this world. Let's see what else. Sanders proposed declaring the climate crisis a national emergency, investment in clean energy sources, setting aside $200 billion to help other nations cope with the effects of climate change. Finally, the thing to understand is the reason why we live our lives the way we do, and certain countries and certain places around the world are poor, is not just because our countries are better, or we have people that are smarter, or we better manage our money. The wealth and the standard of life that we have, we should be thankful to those people for that, because a lot of the time it's them suffering so that we could have this life. You don't see it at first, you don't see it as a kid, you don't see it growing up, but as an adult you learn more and more about where exactly everything that you have comes from. There are also other things happening, like the countries that are richer tend to drop their waste where nobody cares at first. In the countries that are poorer, so anyway, this issue is pretty complicated and there's a lot of reasons for the way things are in the world, but my point is, everything in your life comes from somebody else's work, and a lot of the time it's not the type of work that you might think it is. Yeah, it's just a little more complex than that. And unfortunately, the first and the second world countries are the biggest drivers of climate change. That's point number one to remember. Point number two is the effects of climate change are first felt by the poorest nations. When sea levels start rising, when they get extreme weather events, when they get pollution on their beaches, like plastic bottles, etc., etc. Besides, you don't have to do that much thinking to understand that some politicians care about nature more than others. Bernie Sanders also has got the right approach to foreign policy, in my personal opinion. I think he's right because he would like to intervene less in other countries' affairs, which is something that I think is smart. I don't think any one country should intervene too much. If somebody intervenes, it should be an international organization, not just one country. That promotes violence, problems, that puts that country in the spotlight, in a bad sense of that word. No single country should, make themselves appear more important than they actually are. Countries should be equal. Yeah, they aren't equal, but they should be equal. And if there's any criticizing to do or anything to fix, that should be done by international organizations, not by single countries. Only international organizations should ever intervene as much as the US is intervening everywhere, all over the place. It's not something that's a job of a single country. It's something that's a job of everybody. This can't keep happening because it only leads to conflicts, to wars, and to different sorts of situations that we don't want. Bernie voted against the Iraq War. He said that the US has a long history of inappropriately intervening in Latin American countries as well. He said that we must not go down that road again, and he's also saying that we're not going to invest in never-ending wars, which is something that seems obvious to me, and it seems like the right direction to go. Trump has the direct opposite approach. He would like to pour most of the funds into the military to become big and to become, just the way that he sees himself in his mind. And it's not the way to peace. It just isn't. And it seems obvious to me, and it should be obvious to everybody else too. This is a citation. Our policy cannot just be pro-Israel, pro-Israel, pro-Israel. It has got to be pro-region, working with all of the people, all of the countries in that area. Ta-da! Is it too hard to understand? Obviously, America has a large problem with gun violence, And this is this is what Bernie thinks about that. He says, we need to take on the NRA, expand background checks, and the gun show loophole, and ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons, which is obvious to me. Completely obvious.
People fighting for what is right.
I don't see what else he could vote for, and again, this is the same sort of issue as countries as a whole militarizing. The more you militarize, the more that leads to problems. And the conclusion is very simple. Militarizing is not the way to peace. Done. Bernie would like to make colleges free as well, which is a very nice idea. Education is, well, only like one of the most important things in life.
Are you a Democrat or Republican?
Republican, most definitely.
Can you name a country on this map?
Mexico. Right down here.
Nope, that's India. What's this?
That would be Asia.
No, that's Africa. How about this? Here? And over here?
We have to find a way to live with the Homo sapiens in a way where we don't, they don't affect us, we won't affect them, kind of like in a separation type of way.
I don't know what a Homo sapien is. If they're going extinct, that's very sad, but at the end of the day, I don't care.
It's not the fact that I don't like Homo sapiens, it's just that we've always lived without him, so we don't know anything at all.
And it says, his plan seeks to fully fund historically black colleges and universities, especially financed by a transaction fee for Wall Street trades on stocks, bonds, and derivatives, which is very important. He also proposed canceling student debt, which is something that I can't say that it's a bad idea because it's a good idea. He wants to make weed legal. Well, the more you read, the more you realize that marijuana could possibly have several health benefits, but even more importantly, there are certain things that we do sell, that we do provide people with, that are just terrible for them, and nothing is being done about that. So I would personally focus my attention on that. I would not try to ban this because, especially that it's a plant. So all you need really is some seeds. So good luck with banning that. Bernie Sanders also said, it is hard to defend the current system in which one candidate receives 3 million votes less than his opponent, but still becomes president. Yeah, this is about the Electoral College, and I couldn't support that more. Bernie Sanders would also like to rotate Supreme Court judges, which is something that I believe should have been done a long time ago, but yeah. He also seeks to end cash bail and the death penalty. This is regarding the criminal justice reform. Again, I can't say no to this because it's just correct. And I wish that everybody had the same point of view because it's so obvious to me that these things are wrong that it's even hard for me to understand that, people can have a different idea about that. Bernie would like to help people. Would like to help minorities, would like to help actual people. Trump doesn't really care about anything but his own ego, doesn't really care about anything but this image that he has of America that's honestly very messed up. Bernie Sanders also had this idea for universal childcare, publicly funded. Again, can't see anything wrong with that. A lot of people will say that there's no money for it. Again, money is just it's just our construct, and secondly, Bernie does have ideas as to where to take this money from. Wall Street is one of those places, and I couldn't support him more. Bernie is also pro-choice on the issue of abortion, which is something that I agree with too. I mean, I think that these things you should think about before you decide to do things with the other person, but unfortunately there's different situations in life, and yeah, and women deserve to have a choice. I don't see any reason in people that are protesting, that are, making these slogans such as killing children or something like that. It's this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is lack of education. This is lack of reasoning, lack of anything. If that was true, do you even realize how many of these procedures are being carried out in the US alone every single day? It's something that happens. And if it was the way that you think it is, then I think we would have a lot of protests and a lot of disruption coming from doctors, coming from professionals in this field, because, well, they are people, they know very well what it is that they're doing. So if it was as terrible as that, I believe we would have protests, and I haven't seen any so far. So I don't think that it is that way. Nobody really knows but the people that actually do the job. But I don't see it that way, because I believe doctors are people too. Bernie also wants to help immigrants, not to the point where anybody can come into the US, definitely not that, but he would like to treat them more humanely and not try to get to situations where children are being separated from their parents at the border or something like that, or to deny everybody the right to settle. This is something that can't keep happening. The US is a country that's made of immigrants, some other places in the world are that way too. And it's just, people have different reasons for immigration, but I think, yes, you have the right to filter people, but you should really listen to the reasons and really give them a chance. Place of birth shouldn't be the deciding factor as to how your life is going to go. So that's just the way that I see it. Anyway, Bernie stands for a lot of things that I personally stand for, but I would say that, he's not in the race anymore, but he does endorse Biden, and it does seem that that's who you should have voted for. So anyway, the fundamental thing from all of this is that we should really try to wrap our minds around the fact that people actually go and vote for Trump. Not just a few people, millions of people. And I believe that it just shows what people truly are. And it just shows how bad our education system actually is. And it shows what people are willing to believe. And just shows how basic, how simple, how superficial people can be. This is something that we're gonna have to think about a lot in the future. We gave everybody the right to vote, and we have results of that. Well, anyway, thanks for watching today. I'll see you next time, whenever that may be. And let's just hope for the best. Bye.
What I think is obscene, and what frightens me, is again, when you have the top 1/10 of 1% owning almost as much wealth as the bottom 90. Does anybody think that that is the kind of economy this country should have? We think it's moral. You got people not working one job, they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. People scared to death about what happens tomorrow. Half the people in America have less than $10,000 in savings. Well, the message is that, and let me be very frank, and not everybody will agree with me, but I think that Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. And it's not just because he lies all the time. It's not just because he doesn't believe in science. It's not just because he's a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or a xenophobe. It is because he is quite intentionally trying to undermine American democracy.